Welcome to Ink to Gold, a Pages of Possibilities podcast. I'm discussing Steve Black's article, How Do I Start a Business Journaling Practice? And, I really want you to think about the absolute most headache-inducing bottleneck in your business right now.
Oh, yeah. The one keeping you up at 2 in the morning.
Exactly. The one that's just constantly playing on loop. What if the solution to that bottleneck isn't, another expensive software subscription or hiring someone new? What if it's literally just a $3 notebook and 15 minutes of terrible handwriting?
I mean, it sounds almost too simple to be effective, doesn't it?
It really does.
But the reality is, most entrepreneurs have this absolute graveyard of beautiful, like, $30 leather-bound notebooks just sitting in a desk drawer right now.
Oh, I'm totally guilty of that.
Right. Because people buy them with the best of intentions. They write, one pristine, perfect entry on January 1st, and then they just abandon them because they're too intimidated to ruin that second page with messy thoughts.
Yeah, that graveyard of notebooks is exactly why we're doing this today. Because you listening to this right now, you're an entrepreneur. You're a solopreneur. You're building something entirely from the ground up.
Which is incredibly hard.
Exactly. And a business journal is supposed to be this transformative tool. But that nagging feeling always stops you. You think you need the absolute right system or some highly optimized, color-coded framework before you can even start.
Which is just a trap.
It's a huge trap.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to completely strip away all that inspirational fluff. We aren't going to wax poetic about, finding your inner truth or whatever.
Back to this.
Right. We are focusing purely on the practical ground-level mechanics of what you actually need to do to build a practice that sticks.
And, doing that requires a fundamental shift in how you view preparation. Because preparation, for a lot of high-performing founders, it quickly morphs into its own form of procrastination.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What's fascinating about Steve Black's approach in this article is how he tackles that exact thing head-on. Starting isn't about the mechanics of the notebook. It's really about granting yourself permission to begin imperfectly.
He actually shares this incredibly grounded detail about his own start, which I think completely shatters that whole perfect setup myth.
Oh, the meeting notebook.
Yeah. He didn't go on some silent mountaintop retreat to begin his journaling practice. He started right in the middle of a totally chaotic workday using a cheap standard notebook he'd just been using to jot down meeting notes.
Right, because the catalyst wasn't some burst of inspiration. It was purely necessity.
Exactly. He had a problem to solve, and his head, as he put it, was not doing the job.
Which is the exact moment most business owners reach for a distraction. They open their inbox, they check Slack.
Yep, the doom scroll.
Right. But still he recognized that his cognitive load had simply exceeded his brain's RAM. To solve the problem, he had to physically get the problem out of his head. But here's the catch. Giving yourself permission to be imperfect still leaves you holding a pen with nowhere to put it.
Right. You still have to make a choice.
Yeah, you still have to make a couple of bare minimum logistical choices so that the lack of a system doesn't just become your brand new excuse for not starting.
Okay, so let's look at those choices, the where and the when. Let's look at the where first, because the format debate, physical notebook versus digital document, that usually paralyzes people right out the gate.
Oh, absolutely.
I imagine the temptation to just open a new Notion page or a Google Doc is overwhelming for someone who runs their entire business online.
It definitely is. And Steve lays out the trade-offs there very fairly. Digital gives you instant searchability. If you need to find what you wrote about a vendor 6 months ago, you just hit Command F and it brings it right up.
Which is super convenient.
It is. It backs up to the cloud. You can access it from your phone anywhere in the world. Plus, if you're someone whose brain moves, light years faster than your hand, typing might actually prevent you from losing your train of thought.
But I want to pause on that for a second, because Steve explicitly pushes back against the speed of digital. He actively advocates for a physical notebook precisely because it is slower.
Yes, that physical limitation is a feature, not a bug.
How so?
Well, when you type, it's very easy to just transcribe your anxiety verbatim. You're just dumping raw data onto the screen. But physically handwriting forces a bottleneck.
Ah, because you literally can't write as fast as you think.
Exactly. Because your hand can't keep up with your brain is forced to synthesize the thought before the ink even hits the paper. You actually have to decide what matters before you write it down.
That makes a lot of sense.
Plus, a physical notebook offers a tactile separation from your work screen. And, crucially, it has 0 notifications popping up.
Okay, let's unpack this because obsessing over the perfect notebook is like an entrepreneur endlessly tweaking a website's font instead of just launching the product.
Oh, that is the perfect way to put it.
Right, you're sitting there adjusting the spacing on the About Us page while you have literally zero customers. It feels like work, but it's really just avoiding the actual work. Steve's ultimate golden rule here is simply choose the format you will actually open.
Exactly, because right now, you are optimizing a vessel that has absolutely nothing in it yet. If a physical notebook feels like a chore to you, go digital. Just eliminate the friction.
Okay, so if format is about removing physical friction, the next step has to be removing scheduling friction. Like, when do we actually do this?
Right, the timing.
Steve suggests aiming for just 10 to 15 minutes to start. And he gives options, right? Like mornings for strategic thinking, evenings for processing the day, or Sundays for weekly planning.
Yeah, those are the typical buckets.
But let me push back on this a bit, because the business world heavily romanticizes the whole 5 a.m. CEO morning routine.
Oh, the cold plunges and the green juice.
Exactly. So if a solopreneur's mornings are total chaos with family logistics, getting kids out the door, putting out overnight email fires, is grabbing 10 random minutes in the afternoon really as effective as that sacred morning routine everyone preaches?
That is such a vital question. And the short answer is absolutely. Yes.
Really?
Yes. And the reason why reveals the entire core mechanism of this practice. The power of the timing isn't about the specific hour of the day. It is entirely about what Steve calls the protection of the slot.
The protection of the slot. Okay, how does that practically work for someone whose schedule just constantly changes every single day?
It means that a fragmented, distracted morning session where you're like half looking at Slack and half writing is far less effective than a fiercely guarded 15 minutes at 2 p.m.
Right, because you're actually focused.
Exactly. If your mornings are chaotic, trying to force a journaling habit then will only associate the practice with stress. It feels like failure before you even start your day.
Oh, definitely.
So you have to put this in your calendar and treat it like a real client appointment. When you protect that slot, treating it with the absolute seriousness of, say, a high-paying client call, you're giving your brain the signal that this reflective thinking is non-negotiable business operations.
And there's an immediate ROI to that protected time, isn't there? I mean, Steve makes this fascinating claim that taking those 15 minutes will positively affect every single client call you have afterward.
Yeah, because you're clearing the mental cache.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about a standard workday. Let's say you have a super frustrating call with a supplier at 1 p.m. Then at 2 p.m. you have a pitch meeting with a prospective client.
Okay.
If you haven't processed the frustration from that supplier call, you carry that invisible anxiety right into the pitch. And the prospect, they feel your distraction.
Oh, absolutely. They can tell you're not fully there.
Right. But if you take 10 protected minutes, at say 1.45, to write down the problem, analyze it, and effectively put it on paper, you aren't carrying it in your head anymore. You are fully present for the pitch.
All right, so let's say you've bought in, you've blocked the calendar, you've got your basic, cheap notebook sitting on your desk. The next immediate hurdle, and this is the one that stops people cold, is staring at that blank page and wondering what you're actually supposed to do.
Oh, the blank page is terrifying.
It is.
It's terrifying because, as business owners, we're conditioned to produce deliverables.
Yeah.
We want finished, polished, actionable thoughts.
But Steve's advice here is incredibly freeing. He basically says to abandon the idea of doing it correctly. You aren't writing a memoir, and you definitely aren't drafting a Harvard Business Review article. You just write whatever is occupying mental space.
Yeah. Any looming decision.
Yeah. It could be a decision about hiring a contractor or a bad conversation or a totally wild, half-baked opportunity you're sizing up. The goal isn't immediate brilliant insights. It's the repetition of showing up.
And this leads directly into his advice on structure, which is going to be very counterintuitive for a lot of people listening.
Yeah, the structure part is wild.
He says you must let the structure emerge. Do not impose it. Don't copy some complex system from a productivity article. Wait a few weeks, notice what you naturally write about, and then maybe add one intentional element.
But here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because most business advice is entirely about frameworks and KPIs.
Standard operating procedures, everything optimized.
Exactly. So telling a hyper-optimized business owner to just abandon structure and free write sounds like a recipe for feeling totally unproductive. It sounds like chaos. How do we square that?
You square it by synthesizing the core distinction from Steve's article. And this is vital. You have to separate your journal from your other systems. A journal is not a task manager or a project record.
But wait, why can't I just put a thought section at the bottom of my daily to-do list? It seems so much easier to consolidate.
Because they serve entirely different cognitive functions. Task managers capture information for action, like email the accountant by 3 p.m. That's about executing known steps.
Yeah, linear.
Exactly. But the business journal captures thinking for reflection. They must remain separate because the journal requires slower, deeper thinking that just doesn't fit into a standard workflow.
So if I mix them, I just ruin both.
Pretty much, if you try to impose a rigid framework onto your journal or mix it with your to-do list, you just end up writing a list of chores. You completely eliminate the space required to ask the deeper questions.
Wow, okay. So the task manager is the what and the when, but the journal is the why and the how.
Exactly.
But let's be real about the day-to-day reality of maintaining this habit. The shiny novelty of the new notebook is going to wear off eventually. You will inevitably face days where the practice feels completely pointless or you genuinely feel too busy.
Well, resistance is a guarantee. It's a universal part of the process.
And Steve's approach to handling this resistance is so practical. He says, lower the bar. When you do not want to write, commit to just 3 sentences. 3 sentences. What does that actually look like for a stressed founder who has 0 time?
It doesn't need to be profound. It just needs to be true. So sentence 1, I am completely overwhelmed by the Miller project right now. Sentence 2, I think it's because the client keeps changing the scope and I haven't pushed back.
Okay, in sentence 3.
Sentence 3, tomorrow I need to draft an email setting a firm boundary on deliverables. That's it. It takes 90 seconds.
And the beauty of that is often starting is the hardest part. Once you get those 3 sentences out, the dam breaks and more follows. But even if it doesn't, you maintain the habit.
Which brings up the inevitable panic of missing a day. Because high achievers tend to spiral. They miss one Thursday and think the whole experiment is ruined.
It's like going to the gym. If you miss a Tuesday, you don't try to lift double the weight on Wednesday to compensate. You just show up and do the normal workout.
Exactly. Steve's rule here is vital. If you skip a day, simply return the next day. Missing one session isn't failure, but missing a week. That breaks momentum.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But there's a much deeper, more insidious form of resistance we really need to talk about. Stephen points out that the journal must be private enough to be brutally honest. You must be able to question decisions without performing confidence.
Yes, performing confidence.
I want to linger on that phrase. Why is performing confidence in your own private notebook such a dangerous trap for business owners?
Because entrepreneurship is an inherently lonely and performative role. Think about your average day. You're constantly projecting stability. You project confidence to clients so they trust you, to employees so they feel secure.
It's exhausting.
Deeply exhausting. And over time, that external performance becomes an internal habit. You start hiding your very real doubts from yourself. The danger is when you bring that PR performance into your private journal.
So what does doing PR in your own journal look like?
It looks like writing, things are a bit challenging with the new contract, but we are going to pivot and absolutely crush it this quarter.
Which sounds great on a LinkedIn post.
Right. But it's a lie. What you actually needed to write was, I am terrified I mispriced this contract by 20%. I don't know how to renegotiate it, and we are bleeding money.
Wow. If you write the first one, you get a quick hit of fake dopamine. If you write the second one, you feel awful, but you actually have a problem you can solve. If you dress up your uncertainties on the page, you rob yourself of the opportunity to actually solve the root problems in your business.
Precisely. A journal is only as valuable as the honesty you bring to it. If you dress up your fears, you can't fix them.
So we've navigated the resistance of time, the blank page, and our own egos. Because facing resistance and being brutally honest is uncomfortable, you need a realistic time frame to see the return on your investment.
You're not going to see the matrix on day 2.
Right. So Steve introduces the 30-day rule. You need to commit for 30 days before evaluating because those early entries will feel awkward, right?
Oh, extremely awkward. Thinking on paper is a new skill. It's like migrating to a new CRM. For the first 2 weeks, it feels slower and clunkier than your old system. Steve points out that many who quit early miss out on the compounding benefits.
I love that phrase, compounding benefits. It's when the scattered insights from week 1 connect to the seemingly unrelated problems in week 3. You completely miss that if you quit on day 5.
And that brings us to the assessment phase. After 30 days, you ask yourself some tough questions.
Right. He says you ask. Is my thinking clearer? Am I making better decisions?
Exactly. If the answer is yes, you keep going. If no, you stop. But it's valuable data either way.
But the absolute linchpin of everything here is when you actually begin. He is crystal clear on this. Start today. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for things to calm down.
Because things will never calm down.
Never. So what does this all mean for you right now? You've got the permission to be imperfect. You know the mechanics.
This brings us to Steve's final challenge in the article. It's the perfect catalyst for anyone listening who is ready to stop planning the work and start doing the work.
So what is the exact prompt? How do they start today?
Here is the challenge. I want you to open a notebook right now and ask yourself this. What is the one business challenge worth 15 minutes of honest writing right now?
That's the practice. Try it this week and see what happens. Subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop, and visit pageofpossibilities.com for more journaling practices designed for entrepreneurs. Link to the full article is in the description.